behind the Porsche brand, stands a story far more complex than polished showrooms and roaring engines. It is a story shaped by brilliance and ambition, by relentless innovation, by triumph on racetracks, and by moral compromise during one of history's darkest chapters. To understand how this name became one of the most respected luxury sports car brands in the world, it is necessary to step back into the late 19th century. Long before performance badges and iconic rear-engine silhouettes existed, Ferdinand Porsche was born in September 1875 in Maffersdorf, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, now located in the Czech Republic. His father was a blacksmith, and from a young age Ferdinand was expected to continue the family trade. The world around him was still dominated by horse-drawn carriages, steam locomotives, and bicycles. Automobiles were rare mechanical experiments, unreliable and expensive, more curiosity than practical machine. Yet even as a boy, Ferdinand showed little interest in shaping iron at the forge. What captivated him instead was electricity, a revolutionary force that was slowly transforming cities across Europe. In the attic of his family home, he began experimenting with wires, circuits, and batteries. Electric lighting was still a novelty, and many people saw it as unnecessary or even dangerous. His father initially dismissed these experiments as foolish distractions, but Ferdinand's obsession was undeniable. He displayed a natural understanding of electrical systems, an intuitive grasp of how energy could be harnessed and controlled. Recognizing his talent, his father eventually enrolled him at the Imperial Technical School in Reichenberg. Within months, Ferdinand constructed a working electric generator and wired his family home with electric lights, an astonishing achievement for a teenager at that time. It was a clear sign that his future would not be spent at a blacksmith's anvil. At 18, he moved to Vienna and joined Biela Egger & Co., a company specializing in electrical machinery. Vienna was a center of culture and innovation, and the young engineer quickly proved himself. He was not formally university trained, yet his practical skill and inventive mind elevated him rapidly within the company. There, he developed an electric wheel hub motor, an advanced concept that placed the motor directly inside the wheel itself. This eliminated the need for complex transmissions and chains, demonstrating his preference for elegant engineering solutions. Although originally used for bicycles and small vehicles, the concept foreshadowed technologies that would reappear more than a century later in modern electric cars. As the automobile industry began to emerge, Porsche saw opportunity. He left Biela Egger & Co. and joined Jacob Lohner & Co., a manufacturer transitioning from horse-drawn carriages to self-propelled vehicles. At just 23 years old, Ferdinand built his first automobile, known as the Porsche P1. It was fully electric, mounted on a wooden carriage frame, and capable of traveling approximately 49 miles on a single charge. Its top speed was modest, about 21 miles per hour, limited by the heavy lead-acid batteries required to power it. Despite these constraints, the P1 won its class in a Berlin race in 1899, proving that electric propulsion could compete in early automotive contests. Porsche continued refining his ideas, and in 1900, unveiled a groundbreaking innovation at the Paris Exposition. The Lohner Porsche Electromobile, widely regarded as the world's first gasoline-electric hybrid vehicle. By integrating a combustion engine that powered electric generators, feeding wheel hub motors, Porsche effectively combined the strengths of both technologies. The vehicle achieved racing success and set Austrian speed records, reaching 36 miles per hour. However, it was extremely heavy, nearly 2 tons, and costly to produce. The technological limitations of batteries and materials at the time made large-scale adoption impractical, and the world would largely abandon electric propulsion for nearly a century. Porsche's reputation grew steadily, and he joined Austria, Daimler as chief designer. There, he transitioned fully into combustion engine vehicles, refining high-performance engines and chassis designs. His cars began dominating competitive events, particularly the Prince Henry Trials in 1910, where his Austria Daimler Model 2070H80 secured first, second, and third place. These victories elevated him to near-celebrity status within engineering circles. His approach emphasized lightweight construction, balanced handling, and mechanical efficiency, principles that would later define the DNA of Porsche sports cars. The outbreak of the First World War in 1914 shifted industrial priorities dramatically. Austria Daimler was drawn into wartime production, and Porsche applied his engineering brilliance to military machinery. He designed aircraft engines, airship propulsion systems, and heavy artillery tractors such as the M17 Goliath. His contributions demonstrated technical mastery, but also marked the beginning of a recurring theme in his career: the intersection of engineering genius with military ambition. After the war, Porsche returned to performance vehicles with renewed intensity. The Austria Daimler Sascha, introduced in 1922, reflected his belief that smaller, lighter cars could outperform larger competitors. The Sascha proved him correct, winning 43 of 53 races entered, including the prestigious Targa Florio. His success caught the attention of Daimler in Stuttgart, and he became technical director, eventually contributing to what would become Daimler-Benz. During this period, Porsche designed the Mercedes-Benz S-Series and later the legendary Mercedes-Benz SSK. The SSK, equipped with a supercharged 7.1-liter six-cylinder engine producing up to 300 horsepower, became one of the fastest cars of its time, capable of speeds exceeding 235 kilometers per hour. It dominated races across Europe and South America, including the 500 miles of Argentina and the Mille Miglia. The SSK embodied Porsche's philosophy of combining raw power with refined engineering precision. Despite his achievements at Daimler-Benz, Porsche eventually sought independence. In 1931, he founded his own engineering consultancy in Stuttgart. His company initially provided design services to other manufacturers, but this independence would soon entangle him in the political forces reshaping Germany. When Adolf Hitler rose to power in 1933, he envisioned a people's car that every German family could afford. Porsche became deeply involved in developing what would become the Volkswagen Beetle. At the same time, his firm contributed to military vehicle designs, including tanks and other wartime machinery, during the Second World War. His association with the Nazi regime cast a long shadow. After the war, Ferdinand Porsche was arrested by French authorities in 1945 and imprisoned for nearly 2 years without formal charges. Although never convicted of war crimes, the imprisonment took a severe toll on his health. He was released in 1947, but never fully recovered, dying in 1951. The burden of rebuilding the company fell largely to his son, Ferry Porsche, who transformed the engineering consultancy into a car manufacturer bearing the family name. The first true Porsche sports car, the 350 Sips, emerged under Ferry's leadership. built in Austria before production returned to Stuttgart. It carried forward Ferdinand's engineering philosophy: lightweight design, rear engine balance, and a relentless focus on driving performance. Over time, the company evolved, producing icons like the 911 and expanding into global markets, while gradually confronting and acknowledging its historical ties to the Nazi era. The story of Porsche is not simply a tale of automotive excellence. It is a reflection of Europe's turbulent 20th century, of technological progress intertwined with political darkness. Ferdinand Porsche was undeniably a visionary engineer whose ideas were decades ahead of his time. At the same time, his legacy is inseparable from the regime he served during the war years. Out of this complicated history emerged a brand that would become synonymous with performance, precision, and prestige, proving that even from shadowed beginnings, innovation can reshape identity and endure across generations. Shortly after the introduction of the Mercedes-Benz SSK, Ferdinand Porsche found himself increasingly constrained by disagreements with the leadership at Mercedes-Benz. He was a visionary engineer who believed performance and technical purity should always come first, while the board often balanced engineering ambition against financial caution and corporate strategy. Over time, those tensions grew impossible to ignore. Porsche valued independence and creative control above all else, and rather than compromise his philosophy, he chose to walk away. It was a bold move, especially considering the prestige and security his position offered. He joined another automotive venture soon after, hoping to continue shaping the future of high-performance vehicles. However, the global economy was spiraling into chaos. The Great Depression had begun to devastate industries across Europe and beyond. Investment dried up, consumer demand collapsed, and many companies that had once seemed stable suddenly faced bankruptcy. The firm Porsche joined could not survive the financial storm. It folded within a short period, leaving him unemployed at a time when opportunities were scarce and uncertainty dominated every sector of the economy. Instead of retreating or waiting for stability to return, Ferdinand made the most decisive move of his professional life. In 1931, he established his own engineering consultancy in Stuttgart, officially named Dr. Ing. HCF Porsche GmbH. It was not yet a car manufacturer, in the traditional sense, but rather a design and development office that offered technical expertise to other companies. Porsche gathered around him a loyal circle of engineers who believed in his vision. Among them was his son, Ferry Porsche, whose quiet determination and natural mechanical instinct mirrored his father's passion. Ferry had grown up surrounded by blueprints, engines, and prototypes. Engineering was not merely a profession in the Porsche household, it was a way of life. From an early age, Ferry immersed himself in mechanical problem-solving, absorbing lessons directly from his father's experience. He understood that working alongside Ferdinand meant meeting exceptionally high standards. Every drawing, every calculation, and every design decision demanded precision. Ferry embraced the challenge, steadily proving himself as more than just the founder's son. He became a capable engineer in his own right. Despite Ferdinand's reputation, the newly formed Porsche firm struggled to secure contracts. Germany was still recovering from the aftermath of the First World War, burdened by economic instability, inflation, and political unrest. Demand for automobiles was minimal, and manufacturers hesitated to invest in ambitious projects. The Porsche office survived largely on small engineering assignments and consultancy work. The dream of building a car under their own name remained distant, overshadowed by financial pressure and uncertainty. Then, in 1933, Germany's political landscape shifted dramatically when Adolf Hitler rose to power. Hitler envisioned a transformed Germany, technologically advanced and unified. With modern infrastructure and widespread automobile ownership, he sought to create a people's car that ordinary families could afford. The concept demanded a vehicle that could carry 5 passengers, reach respectable speeds, consume minimal fuel, and be sold at a remarkably low price. Many engineers considered the financial target unrealistic. Porsche, however, saw not only a technical challenge, but also an unprecedented opportunity. After discussions and proposals, Porsche secured the contract to design the car that would become the Volkswagen Beetle. His design was simple yet ingenious. A compact body, a rear-mounted air-cooled engine, and a layout that minimized mechanical complexity. The air-cooled engine eliminated the need for a radiator, reducing both weight and maintenance requirements. The rear engine configuration improved traction and interior space efficiency. The vehicle delivered impressive fuel economy for its era and was engineered with durability in mind. Public enthusiasm was enormous. Hundreds of thousands of Germans registered for the savings program, intended to fund their future Beetle purchase. It appeared that Porsche's long struggle for stability had finally paid off. However, history moved in a darker direction. In September 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and Europe plunged into the Second World War. Civilian automobile production was halted almost immediately as factories were redirected toward military manufacturing. The Volkswagen facility, originally built to produce the people's car, shifted its focus to supporting the war effort. Porsche and his engineering team became deeply involved in developing military vehicles and equipment. Using the Beetle's mechanical foundation, Porsche helped design the Cayenne Gamble, a lightweight military utility vehicle valued for its reliability and off-road capability. Another adaptation was the Schwimmwagen, an amphibious vehicle capable of operating on both land and water. These designs showcased Porsche's ability to adapt civilian engineering principles to military demands efficiently. They were widely deployed and became essential assets for German forces. Beyond light vehicles, Porsche pursued ambitious tank designs. When the German military sought proposals for a new heavy tank, Porsche developed an innovative petrol-electric transmission system for what became known as the Ferdinand prototype. The concept was technologically advanced, incorporating hybrid elements reminiscent of his early automotive experiments decades earlier. However, the system proved overly complex and mechanically fragile under battlefield conditions. The contract ultimately went to another manufacturer. By then, Porsche had already produced numerous chassis, which were later converted into tank destroyers called the Elephant. Although formidable in firepower, they suffered from reliability and mobility problems that limited their effectiveness. During the war, like many industrial enterprises in Nazi Germany, Porsche's operations were linked to the regime's system of forced labor. Historical investigations later revealed that forced laborers worked in facilities associated with the company under harsh conditions. In the decades following the war, The modern Porsche organization acknowledged this history and contributed financially to compensation funds for victims. This period remains a painful and controversial chapter in the company's legacy. Ferdinand Porsche's relationship with the Nazi regime was complex. While he benefited from state support and maintained a working relationship with Hitler, evidence suggests that his primary focus was engineering advancement and business survival rather than ideological commitment. Nonetheless, his work directly supported Germany's military operations. Financially, the company grew substantially during the war years, but that growth came intertwined with moral compromise and the devastation unfolding across Europe. When the war ended in 1945, the consequences were immediate. Ferdinand Porsche was arrested by French authorities due to his connections with the Nazi leadership and his involvement in wartime production. He was imprisoned for nearly 2 years, without formal conviction. The experience severely damaged his health and marked the effective end of his active leadership. The once celebrated engineer, who had shaped some of the most influential automotive designs of the early 20th century, now faced uncertainty and declining strength. With Ferdinand detained, the responsibility for the company's survival fell to Ferry Porsche. Germany was in ruins, its infrastructure shattered, and its industries dismantled or heavily restricted. Ferry faced the daunting task of rebuilding not only a business, but also its identity. He carried forward his father's engineering principles, while steering the company toward a new future, one that would eventually redefine Porsche, not as a wartime contractor or consultancy firm, but as a manufacturer of distinctive sports cars admired worldwide. From economic collapse to political alliance, from technical brilliance to wartime controversy, this phase of Porsche's history reveals how innovation and ambition can be shaped by the forces of their time. It was a period of extraordinary engineering achievement intertwined with profound historical darkness, setting the stage for the rebirth of the Porsche name in the post-war world. When the Second World War ended, the name Porsche was no longer associated with elegant sports cars or engineering brilliance. Instead, it was tied to the machinery of a defeated regime. Ferdinand Porsche, whose technical genius had once been admired across Europe, was arrested by French authorities along with his son, Ferry Porsche. They were accused of collaborating with the Nazi war industry, and for months their future remained uncertain. The company they had built was in ruins. Germany itself was devastated. Factories were damaged, infrastructure was broken, and the economic system had collapsed. In that bleak environment, the Porsche name could easily have disappeared into history. Ferry's release came first, but it was not an act of mercy. It was conditional. He was expected to secure the financial guarantee required for his father's freedom. The demanded sum was enormous for a company that effectively no longer existed. Yet Ferry understood that beyond freeing his father, this was also about saving the Porsche legacy. Without Ferdinand, the brand's intellectual foundation and credibility would vanish. Ferry traveled across a continent, still scared by war, searching for opportunity in the middle of scarcity. That opportunity appeared in Italy, through a partnership with Cisitalia. The ambitious racing constructor wanted to build an advanced Grand Prix machine that would dominate the new era of motorsport. Ferry and his team agreed to design the extraordinary Cisitalia 360. It was a technological marvel for its time. A mid-mounted supercharged engine, four-wheel drive, and engineering complexity far ahead of most competitors. On paper, it promised to redefine racing. But motorsport regulations changed, financial troubles struck Cisitalia, and the car never truly competed as intended. Even so, Ferry had structured the agreement wisely, ensuring payment in advance. That money became the key to securing Ferdinand's release after 22 long months in prison. Ferdinand emerged physically weakened. Prison life had drained his health, and although he was free, he was no longer capable of leading daily operations. The responsibility for rebuilding the company now fell entirely to Ferry. It was not simply a matter of designing a new car. It was about reconstructing trust, restoring financial stability, and redefining a brand in a world that had changed completely. The company relocated to Gmend, Austria, operating out of a modest sawmill rather than a grand engineering facility. Resources were limited. Materials were scarce. Workers were few. Yet creativity thrives under pressure. Ferry believed there was space in the market for a lightweight sports car that emphasized agility and driving pleasure rather than raw power. Drawing on mechanical components from Volkswagen, whose original concept had been shaped years earlier by his father, Ferry developed the first true Porsche branded vehicle, the Porsche 356. The 356 was simple yet purposeful. Its rear-mounted air-cooled engine, derived from the Volkswagen Beetle, provided reliability. Its lightweight aluminum body delivered nimble handling. It was not the fastest car of its era, but it felt alive on winding roads. Early production numbers were small, and each car required intense craftsmanship. Buyers were not just purchasing transportation, they were buying into a philosophy of engineering purity. Racing quickly became the proving ground. When the 356 claimed class victories, including at the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans, it proved that Porsche could compete with far larger manufacturers. As production moved back to Stuttgart in Germany, the 356 evolved. Steel replaced aluminum for cost efficiency. Engines grew more powerful. Variants such as the Speedster attracted American buyers, who appreciated open-top driving and European flair. The United States became a crucial market, helping Porsche grow beyond its fragile beginnings. Each improvement reinforced Ferry's belief that a sports car should be lightweight, precise, and engaging above all else. By the early 1960s, however, the 356 architecture had reached its limits. The company needed a successor that honored its heritage while advancing performance. That responsibility fell to Ferry's son, Ferdinand Alexander Porsche. Unlike his grandfather, who was an engineer, Ferdinand Alexander was primarily a designer. He focused on form, proportion, and timeless aesthetics. The result was the Porsche 911, introduced in 1964. The 911 retained the rear engine layout, but introduced a more powerful flat, six-engine. Its silhouette was elegant yet unmistakable, with round headlights and flowing lines that would become iconic. Unlike many sports cars that burned brightly and faded, the 911 evolved continuously without losing its identity. Engineers refined suspension systems, improved aerodynamics, and increased horsepower year after year. Turbocharging in the 1970s pushed performance to new heights. The 911 became both a daily driver and a racing champion, competing successfully in endurance races, rallies, and international championships. Victories at events like the 24 Hours of Le Mans cemented Porsche's dominance in motorsport and reinforced its image as a performance-focused manufacturer. Despite its engineering brilliance, Porsche faced financial turbulence in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Rising costs and declining sales nearly drove the company into insolvency. The sports car market had become volatile, and relying solely on two-door performance vehicles was risky. Porsche needed a bold move to survive. That decision came in the form of diversification. In 2002, Porsche introduced the Porsche Cayenne. Purists criticized the idea of a Porsche SUV, arguing it betrayed the brand's heritage. Yet the Cayenne combined everyday practicality with sports car performance. It appealed to families and new markets, particularly in North America and Asia. Sales surged. The Cayenne became a financial lifeline, funding continued development of traditional sports models. Later, the smaller Porsche Macan expanded this success, becoming one of the company's best-selling vehicles worldwide. Porsche continued innovating beyond combustion engines. The launch of the fully electric Porsche Taycan demonstrated that performance and sustainability could coexist. The Taycan delivered instant acceleration, advanced battery technology, and Porsche's signature handling characteristics. It signaled that the company was not merely preserving tradition, but adapting boldly to a new automotive era. Today, Porsche operates as part of the Volkswagen Group. Yet it maintains a distinct identity rooted in precision engineering and motorsport excellence. From a small Austrian workshop to a global performance icon, the company's journey reflects resilience, adaptability, and relentless pursuit of driving perfection. What began as a desperate effort to free a father from prison evolved into one of the most respected automotive legacies in the world, proving that even in the shadow of collapse, innovation and determination can rebuild something extraordinary.